All right, everybody. Good afternoon. You know what time it is. We got ourselves a Seattle Seahawk injury report, and most of the news is quite good. Some of the news is quite interesting. There's maybe a little bit of bad news baked in here, but not a lot. And it's a violent sport. You're never going to really see all good news. So we're going to take the injury report from Curtis Crabtree here. Just take a look at the image that he posted. And first of all, let's just get through the stuff that doesn't really matter that much. Ernest Jones, Demarcus Lawrence, Uchenna Nwosu, JSN, and Leonard Williams were all upgraded from limited participation yesterday to full participation today. However, none of those guys were injured. They were resting. Didn't really mean anything, just normal stuff. So that stuff, not worried about it. Let's take a look at the stuff that actually impacts us. Before we go any further into this video, I want to tell you a little bit about my friends over at Sleeper. Let me tell you, if you're not using Sleeper this year for daily fantasy football, you are missing out. Check out the left side of your screen right now. Look at all the great fun stuff you can pick on over there. All kinds of over-unders, pretty much any sport you can imagine. Obviously, we're big fans of football around here. Let's take a look at my entry for this week. I've got Jerry Jeudy going over 34 yards against the Bears. I got Derrick Henry scoring a touchdown against the Bengals. I've got Pat Mahomes going under 241 passing yards against the Chargers. And I have Jason Myers kicking at least 2 field goals against the Colts. So get on over to Sleeper. You can put together an entry just like this. And if you use promo code SBN, you can get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions do apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Check them out and test your football knowledge. All right, so first, full participants today. Let's go through alphabetically. AJ Barner was a full participant today after being a full participant yesterday, so obviously everything's fine. Kind of an interesting one here. Tyrese Knight was added to the injury report with a calf injury, which is new. He was not listed at all yesterday, but he was a full participant. So he got hurt, but it didn't actually cause him to miss any practice. So Tyrese Knight doesn't start anymore. Obviously, he doesn't play very much, but he does do special teams. So good to know he is here. And it does seem like there's no real issue. So everything's good there. Riley Mills remains a full participant. He's been a full participant for weeks now. Haven't activated him yet, but we could, and I'll have more words to say about that later. Ty Okada upgraded from a limited participant yesterday to a full today, so great news there. Don't know how much we're going to need him, but he did play a lot last week. And for reasons we'll get into later, there's reason to believe he will play at least some again this week. So I think that having Okada available is pretty valuable. Jaron Reed, he has the club on his hand, by the way. So expect him to have that club on his hand the rest of the season, but went from limited to full. So no issues there. Looks like he's as good to go as he will be. And it's possible that he will be listed on the injury report the rest of the year because of the club on his hand, but it probably won't affect his availability and will have minor but not massive effect on his ability. Jalen Sundell, new one right here, big one right here, goes from limited to full. So that implies that he will be available for the game on Sunday if we want him. And I think we do. As much as Oluwatimi added some stuff to the offense that was good, there was also some stuff that he was taking off the table, and I think that we do kind of want those things back. I am wondering if maybe there could be a curveball here, but for the moment, that's kind of what I'm expecting. Cody White, still a full participant. The abdomen injury, it's been lingering, but it's not seemingly affecting him. And Derek Young, also a full participant after being a full participant yesterday, so I do think that he will be available. I don't know if we'll activate him because you only have a limited amount of players that you can activate. Remember, you can only carry so many players into a active roster during a game day. All right, so those are your full participants. The limited participants, we only have a couple here. One is Julian Love. So it does seem like whatever's going on with Julian Love is lingering just a little bit. I'm sure he'll play. Maybe he won't play the whole game, kind of like last week. Again, my hope is that it's a ramp up so he can play the whole game against the Rams. Because I look back at that first game against the Rams, and I'm not saying Okada was terrible. That is a game where I feel like you get a little bit more out of Love that you're not getting out of Okada. And we play the Rams again, so I want my guys out there. And then you've also got Eric Saubert, who is limited again. So maybe he's not quite ready to be activated. Possibly. I hope that he is, but given the fact that he's been out a while now, and given the fact that you don't really want to push players when you don't have to, and certainly we don't have to, you might see him be inactive for yet another week. And that gets us to the one guy here who is actually a DNP today. Elijah Arroyo did not participate. He's probably not playing this weekend. It would be surprising at this point. I mean, he's a rookie. He hasn't had a super big load this year, but he has played at least some in every game. Why would you push it? Why would you mess around with it? I mean, the only reason why you would is that you're concerned about the tight end room with Nick Collar up as your second string and Brady Russell as your third string. And that is the case if Saubert can't play. So I don't love that, admittedly. I'm not a huge fan of that, but we can do it for one game, especially against this Colts team. Let's be real here. This Colts team is not a team that requires every single part of this offensive engine to be humming for us to beat. And that's it. I mean, it's a long list, but once you drill into it, it's really not much. So the interesting thing going on with the Seahawks on the injury report right now, Greg Bell kind of lays it out here. The Seahawks waived the cornerback, Shaq Griffin. So Shaq Griffin now off the team. And they also waived Cam Akers. So I guess Velez Jones is your third string running back right now, I think. I think it's Velez. And I think most people will be okay with that. But, of course, when you waive two players, that means you're looking to add two players. And there are two very logical picks to be activated this week. And then there are two picks that could also happen. So I think the obvious one right now is Jalen Sundell. Excuse me, I'll figure it out eventually. Sundell. After being a full participant today, every reason to believe he can play. So it seems like Sundell will be activated. So great news there. And then you have one more spot because, again, we waived two players. The second player could be Riley Mills, could be Eric Saubert, could be Derek Young. Now, of those three players, the only player that was limited today in practice was Saubert. So maybe you're saying it's probably not him. Maybe we're going to say we need him to be a full participant before we feel good about it. And Riley Mills, we know we only have one more week to activate him. We have until Wednesday next week, or else he goes on season-ending IR. So activating him in the next 6 days is the only way we'll actually get to have him. And you also have Derek Young, who hasn't been out that long. He's been out a normal amount of time and has been a full participant now in practice. But here's the thing I'm thinking also at the same time. Who do we need? I don't think we need Riley Mills, and I don't think we need Derek Young either. What would Derek Young do on this team right now? He wouldn't return kicks because we've got... Maybe he'd be the backup kick returner because a lot of teams put two guys back there. He would be, wide receiver 5 behind Cody White. Wide receiver 5 basically doesn't ever get on the field in this offense. Maybe he would take Jake Bobo's spot. Maybe. And not really much he can do. Riley Mills, there might be some stuff he can do. We do kind of have a 3-man rotation with a little bit of Mike Morris on the line. But we do have one more week before we have to activate him. I would not be surprised if we utilized all that time. And our defensive line is fantastic. Remember, we just survived a month without Jarran Reed. Maybe it was even a little bit more. So adding Jarran Reed back now, you don't really need to throw Riley Mills in there on top of it. Eric Saubert is actually kind of the guy we need right now because I don't think we're going to have Arroyo. So Eric Saubert is the guy you actually need, but he seems like the guy who is least likely to be fully physically ready to go. So it's a little bit tricky, but that's your combination. It's going to be two of those four guys, and really it's going to be one of the three because obviously one of the guys is Sundell. All right, so that was a long discussion on that. Let's jump over to the Colts side of things. They've got their practice report on their official X account. Let's take a look here. So full participants include Josh Downs, wide receiver, Zaire Franklin, linebacker, Jalen Jones, cornerback, Riley Leonard, quarterback, Alec Pierce, wide receiver, and that's it. Now, all five of those guys that I just listed were also full participants yesterday, so nothing surprising, nothing out of the ordinary. The only thing that's really interesting here is Riley Leonard, because he's now had 2 full practices in a row, but the indication is the Colts don't think he can play, and they're planning on playing Phillip Rivers. Adam Schefter actually talked about this earlier today. It looks like Phillip Rivers is the guy. So even though Riley Leonard is healthy, they actually feel like Phillip Rivers is more equipped to play NFL football right now, which, I don't know, that's a pretty extreme thing to say. However, one thing going on with Riley Leonard is even though he might be able to practice and might even be able to play, supposedly the injury he sustained basically took away his mobility. And if you know anything about Riley Leonard, you would know that without mobility, he's really got nothing. He doesn't really have the arm, doesn't really have the accuracy, he doesn't have the ability to read defenses. He's a one-read takeoff quarterback. He's kind of like Jalen Hurts, kind of like a worse version of Jalen Hurts. So if he can't move, then he can't play, and it looks like he will not play. All right, limited participation. We got DeForest Buckner with a neck injury. Now, I guess he's just coming off injured reserve. So just because he's limited doesn't necessarily mean he's going to be able to go. It does seem like he's going to at least potentially be able to go. One thing that I am wondering, and generally NFL teams don't think like this, but do you just say we're going to hold DeForest Buckner out because we know this game is kind of a lost cause and we don't want to mess around with one of our best players who's just coming off a neck injury? So Buckner practicing, I'm not convinced. We'll see. Tyquan Lewis, defensive end, limited after being a DNP yesterday, so headed in the right direction. Not a huge part of what they do, but a part of what they do. And that's it for the limited participations. We got some DNPs. One of them is Grover Stewart, but that's a rest day. That doesn't really mean anything. So the DNPs that are impactful are Sauce Gardner. He is almost certainly out now. I don't think we're going to see Sauce. By the way, Charvarius Ward is on injured reserve now, so he's definitely out. We know that for a fact. Anthony Gold, DNP. I guess he's their special teams return man, so that's actually kind of important, even though he's not a receiver, really. And finally, Braden Smith, DNP, and he's coming off a concussion. He's also got the neck. Seems like he's going to be out. If I had to guess, I'd say no Braden Smith. So that's pretty substantial. That's a lot, right? Like Sauce Gardner alone is pretty devastating. He was a big part of what they were planning on doing in the second half of the year in 2025. And yeah, that's it. But it's impactful. It's substantial. And yeah, looks like Rivers is the guy, by the way. I did want to throw that in here. Anybody who was wondering, it looks like it's Rivers. Maybe the Colts are just pulling a switcheroo at the last second, but I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. And I mean, I get it, but then again, I don't. It feels very mean-spirited to throw Phillip Rivers out there in his first NFL game in 5 years against a top 3 defense on the road in what will probably be rain. But there are no good options right now. All right. See you guys later. Go Hawks. Everybody have a good day. Might be another video later today. I don't know. We'll see. But either way, going to be on Twitch later. Metroid Prime 4. Go Hawks. See you soon.